I just found a homeless lady just mulling around here. And I said, hey, do you want to come in and do the show with me? And she's like, sure, I've got nothing better to do. So hello to Jill Savage.
Straight up homeless now. Yeah, yes. That's fine. You know what? I am on pins and needles, though, because what people don't know is that you are going to be back here tomorrow.
I am. I can't go home. Every flight in Des Moines is canceled. There's like nothing flying in and out.
But your suitcase was not prepared for this. So I am on pins and needles to see how this goes tomorrow. But we have to get through today first. And it's going to be a great day. It's going to be a huge day. There's a lot to talk about.
You've never seen a day like this before?
Never.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's a Wednesday. So it's buy, sell, or hold day.
We are still going to do all that, yes.
It's still one of my all-time favorite days of the Steve Deace Show.
Indeed. So I'm going to explain everything to you guys, how today's going to proceed, after we tell you about our friends over at Jace Medical, who first and foremost, they want to thank our first responders and those who put their lives on the line for all of us. But they also want you to be reminded that in case of an emergency, you often have to be your own first responder. And a lot of times that means you need the right tools in your toolkit. And one of the tools you need is the Jace case. Cannot recommend the Jace case high enough. It's a collection of about 5 of the most famous proven antibiotics in human history. And you can have a backup supply of them just in case they're the new ivermectin. And just when you might need it the most, they suddenly decide, hey, you can't have that. It's horse paste or it's dangerous, when it's not really either one of those things. So you want to make sure you've got backups. And now you can also expand your Jace case as well. They've got customizable options and a lot of different medications to make sure you've got that peace of mind. And yes, the aforementioned ivermectin happens to be one of those you can expand to. So if you go to jace.com, JASC, you can enter their giveaway right now for a free Jace case in the month of March. Enter that giveaway right now for a free Jace case in the month of March. And if you decide to buy your own, and I would urge you to do that, use my promo code DACE at checkout for the discount. Promo code DACE for the discount at jace.com, JASC, jace.com, promo code DACE at jace.com. All right, so here's how today's going to work. Very stripped down version. We are not able to connect today with the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation. And boy, he would have come loaded for bear today after the events of last night. But we are going to have to postpone Daniel, so he's not going to be with us today. Jill, you and I, think, are going to have a lot to say about what occurred last night. And why I think it was maybe a potential inflection point, a tipping point in America's cold civil war, and we'll discuss that. We are going to play buy, sell, or hold. I'm just going to go into the X post that Aaron put out there soliciting the offerings, and I'm just going to go through them myself in real time next hour, or maybe even at the bottom of this hour. We'll see how long we want to go on last night's speech and its aftermath. But we're just going to get through as many of those we possibly can. You're going to say goodbye because you've got another hit you've got to do at 12:30 Central, right? And then I'll finish out the last half hour. I'm going to get through as many buy, sell, or hold submissions on various topics as I possibly can. And, then we're going to hope, that I have something to wear tomorrow. And I think I'm not the only one hoping that. I think pretty much everybody that works in this building is also hoping that.
I can't wait.
Or we're going to maybe go shopping on Instacart. See what they've got. The good thing is when you've lost another 40 pounds, it's a little easier to find things that fit you on Instacart than it was a year or so ago at this time. So it'll make it a little simpler. We'll see what's out there. I might actually just have like an extra Steve Deace shirt in my suitcase that's been in there for like 5 years. It's probably a drape now, but I might just wear that tomorrow. It's like nobody cares what I look like, right? So we're gonna hopefully be able to go home tomorrow, but I'll be back here tomorrow. Todd and Aaron will be back as well. All right, and we'll do regular order on the show tomorrow. But today you're kind of going to get the strip down. There's a Blizzard version. However, because Aaron is that dedicated to his craft, from his house, he still managed to send us a rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by the America my parents told me about.
My fellow citizens, America is back.
Donald Trump's address to the joint session of Congress last night not only articulated but embodied the spirit that it's going to take from all of us to turn this country around. There were myriad moments, both inspiring, hilarious, strong, and bold, but here's my crack at the best. First up, Trump smacked the Democrats to their face on the issue of lawfare.
We have ended weaponized government where, as an example, a sitting president is allowed to viciously prosecute his political opponent, like me. How did that work out?
Trump also reminded Democrats their border security bill last year was always a canard.
The Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation. We must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president.
President Trump also honored Peyton McNabb.
So my name is Peyton McNabb. I am from Murphy, North Carolina. My senior year of high school, I was permanently injured by a male posing as a woman on the opposing team. He hit me so severely that it knocked me unconscious, and it left me with lifelong effects, stuff that I'm still dealing with today. Partial paralysis, vision impairment, cognitive issues. The list goes on. I mean, it is a brain injury, so it does take more time.
Peyton is here tonight in the gallery, and Peyton, from now on, schools will kick the men off the girls' team, or they will lose all federal funding.
He also surprised a high school senior named Jason Hartley.
Jason tragically lost his dad, who was also a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy when he was just a boy, and now he wants to carry on the family legacy of service. Jason is a senior in high school, a 6-letter varsity athlete, a really good athlete, they say, a brilliant student with a 4.46, that's good, GPA. And his greatest dream is to attend the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. And Jason, that's a very big deal getting in. That's a hard one to get into. But I'm pleased to inform you that your application has been accepted. You will soon be joining the Corps of Cadets.
The funniest moments happened when Trump read off some of the accomplishments of Doge, including the revelation, thanks to Doge, that there are oodles of people over the age of 160 years old on Social Security.
We have a healthier country than I thought, Bobby.
Trump also announced his cleanup effort in the wake of Biden's botched pullout from Afghanistan is already well underway.
3.5 years ago, ISIS terrorists killed 13 American service members and countless others in the Abbey Gate bombing during the disastrous and incompetent withdrawal from Afghanistan. I am pleased to announce that we have just apprehended the top terrorist responsible for that atrocity, and he is right now on his way here to face the swift sword of American justice.
Trump also fulfilled the dream of 13-year-old DJ Daniel, who's battled brain cancer and beat the odds.
I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
But the best moment of the night by far was Trump's address to the children of this country.
Our message to every child in America is that you are perfect exactly the way God made you.
For the Democrats, they clapped at nary a moment I just highlighted, but they did come rocking like it's 1860, brandishing canes and auction paddles. Michigan Senator Elissa Slotkin gave the Democrats rebuttal where she talked about Democrat and Republicans' shared values. This happened, of course, after her own party couldn't bring themselves to clap for a kid with cancer. It is clear, however, the Democrats have finally gotten unified on a message, and their message goes a little something like this. We hate everything and everyone, and we hope your daughters take a 30-mile-per-hour volleyball to the face. Just a stroke of brilliance after the guy they tried to imprison and murder just kicked their asses in the last election. But for the rest of America, real America, last night was a needed reminder of what America was, in many ways still is, and what it still can be for future generations. And that's what happened while we were away.
That we like to say on our show that worldview is destiny and that no person can rise above their own worldview. And, you know, Trump represents the tail end of the boomer generation. And it's almost a metaphysical certitude he'll be the final boomer leader of America, given the ages of those people now. And really, if you if you're my age, if you're the children of the boomers, if you're a Gen Xer, Jill, and Aaron opening his montage saying, well, this is the America that my parents told me about. This is the country I grew up in. And if you can see Trump is a product, like most political leaders are products of their generation. It is rare that a political leader will transcend his generation. Most of the time, they are products of it, for better or for worse. And the entirety of everything that he said last night, and the fundamentals of every issue that he articulated. I mean, they didn't have the tranny madness issue in the 80s or 90s, but the fundamental issues is, are there moral absolutes? Are there things defined in nature that we cannot mess with? They still had those arguments and debates. And there are swaths of his speech that Bill Clinton could have given and meant it. Ronald Reagan could have given and meant it. Any one of the Bushes could have given and meant it. Nixon could have given and meant it. Carter, Ford could have given and meant it. And we called that pretty much what was the mainstream. And elections, every now and then, maybe one party would get out of whack when it came to the economy, like Hoover in the 30s, Carter in the 70s, and there would be a massive paradigm shift by who came in as a result of that blowback. FDR and the New Deal, Reagan and supply-side economics. But for the most part, I mean, how was USAID originally born, remember? We're all talking about that, and it's in the news again today. We're all talking about that. Remember, it was originally born out of an NGO trying to make sure both parties understood the evils of communism. That's how it was originally born, to make sure that regardless of who won the White House, they understood the Soviet Union was the bad guy here, right? That's how it originally was born, to create shared values. Now it became the tip of the spear of a massive patronage grift network, but originally it was meant to ensure a shared value. And despite all of that, that was the mainstream, and elections pretty much were decided here in the center. And they might go a little left of center, a little right of center, but there was this thing, and a professor, I think a Michigan college professor, coined the phrase Overton window. And it was within this window. His name was Overton. That's why I got called that. And within this window is where American elections were largely determined from the New Deal until Barack Obama. They were largely in this spectrum. All right. And they might have gone a little bit more left of center in response to the Depression. They might have gone more right of center in response to the misery index and malaise. OK, but those fulcrums may have been adjusted, but they were largely determined in this box. And then you had Obama, and you had a massive paradigm shift. And you really had the fullness of the leftist spirit of the age, progressive belief system that was hatched by the Woodrow Wilson generation. Now these are the children, and they're here now. They're here to finish that mission. And what you saw last night, and this is why I think this is a potential tipping point moment. What we saw last night, if you are a subscriber or fan of the Blaze, you knew this. And if you subscribe or are a fan of any of the other phenomenal outlets on the right, you know this. All right, but we represent maybe 20% of this electorate, maybe. There's another great big class of people out there called normies who did not know this and frankly didn't want to know it and were hoping that it was not true. I think of, let me give you a normie example from yesterday. My Uber driver who picked me up yesterday at my hotel took me to the Blaze. Black guy. I come in, black guy, cool dude. He's listening to Bryan Adams' Summer of '69. Great song, by the way. And he's got a MAGA hat on. Okay. And we had a little bit of a chat. It's pretty clear he's informed but not invested. You know what I'm saying, Jill?
Yeah. Like
on a day-to-day basis, he doesn't know who these names are and isn't following it. He just instinctively didn't like. Young man, okay, probably in his late 20s, early 30s. He just a young black guy, instinctively knew that we just couldn't continue on the path we were on. Trump came across as cool, honest, transparent, okay, change of pace. He's wearing the hat. He's somewhat committed. I have no idea how hard, okay, but he just recognized, we needed something different than what was going on, all right? And he signed up and got involved in that, all right? That's kind of the guy I'm talking about, all right? And there's way more of those voters than there are people like us and the people that pay our paychecks that make places like the Blaze possible. If that person was watching last night, they saw something that we have known is true for many, many years. But they have to now come to grips with. And I want to actually side with the normies, because I think this is a conclusion you should never enter into lightly in any human relationship. Ever. Because once you come to this conclusion, it's hard to step back. Right? In any human relationship, when certain things are said or done, it's hard to take them back. So be very careful about crossing certain lines if you want to maintain that relationship. And often you don't cross them until you've come to the conclusion we can't. All right? And essentially what the Democratic Party showed Normie America last night is that unless you're a fan of the Harpies on The View, or unless you're a fan of the Harpies on MSNBC, we offer you nothing. We have nothing for you. Absolutely nothing. What you saw last night is Trump tried to claim basically all of the ideological ground of America, including some things, frankly, if you're a traditional conservative, you're probably not going to agree with, if we're being honest, okay? But that window I just talked about, okay, that existed much of my lifetime until Barack Obama, Trump basically said, I want that entire window. I'm going to call that entire window common sense. And if there are things that I think will work that might be a little left of center, for example, we're going to get rid of some of the free trade policies out of the Reagan-Bush era, okay? And then if there's some things I think from the right of center that we need to, return and go back to, like, the God only made two kinds of people, male and female, and if you're a child, he made you perfect just the way you are, right? I'm going to kind of take all these things that were in the Overton window my whole life as a 79-year-old man, and I'm going to claim that entire space. I'm going to call it common sense. I'm going to claim it. And just say, whatever are the best ideas within that space, and that's how you get Bobby Kennedy and, my buddy Bob Vanderplots together in a coalition. I'm going to claim that whole space. That's mine. I want that whole generational space that where the American mainstream was for much of the latter 20th century and into the 21st. I'm claiming it all for mine. That's my coalition. I want it. And the Democrats basically said, it's yours. You may have it. We don't want it, in fact. That's an incredible statement to make to the country. And I think it's why you saw people like David Axelrod freaking out on CNN last night. Because don't get me wrong, David Axelrod doesn't want it either. There's never a Barack Obama without David Axelrod. He's the Karl Rove of the Barack Obama of Obamaism. He doesn't want that either, but he also understands the political predicament of admitting that publicly, of saying that. I mean, it's one thing to cheat on your wife. It's another to just, call your mistress like right in front of her and the kids at the dinner table. I mean, what Axelrod's freaked out about is, hey, man, I went and found this really charismatic young black man and took him from state legislature to president. And we got people to vote against things they would have never voted against before, vote for things they would have never voted for before because they wanted to be seen as cool and hip and not be racists. We had this thing. We had it going, man. We just took over the suburbs. White liberal guilt. We thought that the Republicans thought they had defeated in the 80s. We brought it back with a vengeance. We called it woke intersectionality, political correctness, and the whites in the suburbs just ate that crap up, especially the women. Couldn't get enough of it. And we literally had them going to their mega churches on Sunday and then coming out on election day and voting against everything in their sermons they just heard. But now you're going to take all of that disguise away. You're going to take all that camouflage away, and we're just going to admit to people now, we're going to show up. Is Little Red Riding Hood here? Little Red Riding Hood answers the door. Who is it? I'm just a wolf. I'm here to eat you. Not even pretend to be grandma? Not going to put on a bonnet, a dress, nothing? No lipstick, nothing. Just, it's like the old Candace Bergen SNL skit. Land shark. You're just gonna flat out just tell me you're here to ruin my way of life. You're not going to camouflage it at all. We're not going to, you just want to use me. Not going to, no dinner, nothing? Nothing. Pretty much. The deal is you slit your throats or we'll slit it for you. Congresswoman Debbie Dingell's going to roll her eyes at a kid with cancer. They can't even stand for a kid with cancer. Imagine you're in the middle of divorce with a spouse. And you're not sure, can we save this? Do we try mediation, counseling again? One of your kids gets really, really sick. And you go to your spouse thinking, hey, we need to set whatever's between us aside for what's best for the kids here. And the other party's like, screw that kid. You're not punking out of this, and I want my alimony in the house. At that point, you pretty much know, I guess mediation's off the table. Joe, right? It looks like negotiation. We're pretty much done here, right? If we can't agree to put the needs of our own kids ahead of our own desires and divisions, then I think that pretty much speaks to where we are. And that was the message sent to the normie American last night. The normie American was told, if you're not an avowed Marxist of some stripe, full-blown Soviet like Bernie Sanders, cultural Marxist like all the senators that voted against men and women's sports the other day, if you aren't willing to hammer and sickle to some degree, we have nothing to offer you. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The first time these people cheered last night was for Ukraine, a foreign country. And it was almost 2 hours into this speech. They said to Trump, we're just going to give you the mainstream of America. You can have it. We don't want it. And we're going to put our own ideological pursuits ahead of the human condition. Do you know what we typically call movements that put their ideologies ahead of the needs of human beings? Cults. We call them cults. And that was on full display last night, Jill. What are your thoughts?
I go back to just Aaron at the very beginning of his montage, where it says, this is the America that my parents told me about, right? You and I, this is what we know and love. This is why we get out of bed every day and do what we do, because we are so dedicated to the preservation of this country, because we knew what it could be, what we grew up with, and we know that this is the last best place on earth. And if this goes by the wayside, who knows how long it's going to take before anything like this ever comes back again. Donald Trump is making it cool to be patriotic again. That is a huge, huge thing to do. He's also making alpha males cool again, right? I love that he was out there kind of taunting the Democrats a little bit at the beginning of the speech. You can't do it in the NFL. They throw a flag on you. But you know what? If you're the freaking president of the United States, the microphone is yours, sir. Go ahead and do what you want. And, kind of like put them in their place a little, because nobody on the right has done that in so long. We're always so scared of what the media is going to say about us.
A bunch of people that will never say anything nice to us, never vote for us. That's why I thought that he set the tone at the beginning saying, I know these people over here, no matter what I do, will never support me. I don't think people that have never worked full-time in politics, Jill, don't understand how it is important for the Republicans that we support to absorb that fact. Because they can spend years up there on that Capitol dome and never come to grips with the fact, there's nothing I can do. There's no amount of compromise I can offer you that you will grant me something. So then guess what? I'm not going to even try.
Well, in the House, they have to get elected every 2 years. So what if my constituents hear something bad about me? Then it's going to be in the media and it's going to be in headlines. I'm sorry. Who are the ones that we actually like? How many good headlines do they get written about them? And how is this not just on full display for the rest of them to see? Like, do we need like the big chart? Do we need to like point it out like the Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme? Like, can we chart this out for you? Can we show you this is the way to go through and make the country actually great again? I loved that his theme of his speech was the renewal of the American dream, because that has been so far gone for so many people. And to just tell people that you can have hope again, whether it happens or not in your life, you're going to have that sense of like, okay, things can get better. You have to believe it before it's going to happen. And yes, we'd love everybody to get on the Christian spiritual journey. Yes. Can we start, like just pulling them in with a little bit of hope wherever they can get it? Yes. I just look at this and I think it's such a big deal, because if you are the normies that you are talking about, Doge is so easy to see, and they're like, this is the low-hanging fruit. This is just billions of dollars that they've been stealing of your taxpayer dollars, right? And like Trump last night was talking about like the transgender mice, and you're going, wait a minute,
condoms in Mozambique,
and we're putting on like operas in Peru, and so I'm like, what are we doing with our tax dollars, right? You are outraged.
People older than the country still getting Social Security checks?
Because you don't know that this stuff is going on if you're a normie. You have a life. There's so much in your day-to-day. You don't have time to pay attention. And you know what? At this point, you just kind of trust it. But you have to remember that we didn't just get in this place because of Democrats. We got in this place because of a bunch of bad Republicans, too. And that is now the next step that I want to see Donald Trump do, is say, hey, everybody, you don't just get a pass anymore. We need to get this country back on track. I can sign all the executive orders that I want. That's not lasting, right? The next guy that comes in, if he's on the other side, he's going to go undo everything that I've just done. You need congressional change. And I think now you actually have a man, and I talked about this last night on the post show. Trump 1.0 versus Trump 2.0, in my opinion, are completely different.
100% agree.
Because Trump 1.0, egotistical. He's everything that we thought he would be coming in, right? But Trump 2.0, after July 13th, he's like, you know what, Elon, go ahead, take the stage. Go ahead and get some of these headlines. J.D. Vance, you want to talk to Zelensky and you want to be the man in the room? Go ahead, I have no problem with that. He's sharing the spotlight. He's different. He's
presidential.
He is presidential.
He's gone from provocateur to president.
And that is going to be one of the biggest changes, one of the biggest moments and opportunities that we have now in American history, is you have a guy who does not give a crap, who is also going to be presidential at the same time. The future right there is looking bright now. We don't know what's going to hold, but there is a lot of hope in that if he can keep this going.
All right, so when we come back here in a minute, that's what I want to talk about, what this moment means, because, I mean, still about half the country voted for Kamala Harris, okay? But here's the thing you need to remember. A few years ago, Ron DeSantis won a 21 million person state called Florida by fewer than 40,000 votes. Then he won it by 20 points. Kim Reynolds, my governor, could not even get elected as she is right now, when 8 years ago. She had to get appointed, okay? Now she's a force of nature. How did they do it? Because of events like what we saw last night. I want to connect those dots because I think there's some real hope here. Stay tuned.
The Steve Deace Show.
All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show. We are powered by our friends over at My Patriot Supply. I know, hey, we're feeling good. We should be. We've got old Mo right now. But, it's not like the enemy's like, man, look at those Americans. Making a comeback. I think we're just going to leave these adorable people alone for a while. That's not how this is going to work, folks. All right, we lived through this in the first Trump term. All right? So, make sure you're ready. Make sure you're ready for it. That can never happen here. The next time it happens here. And maybe it happens where you are, okay? A lot of people in Western Carolina, man, God's country, people a lot more handy and self-sufficient than me. And they came up against Mother Nature and a government that doesn't care about them, and look what happened. So, it can happen to them. Probably happened to a lot of us, all right? Make sure you're ready and get prepared with our friends at My Patriot Supply. Get the 3-month emergency food kit. That's breakfast, lunch, dinner, even drinks and snacks. The full complement of the 2,000 calories plus per day that you need. And you can have it delivered today for free, same-day shipping if you order by 3 p.m. It's free shipping all the time, but you can have it sent out same day if you if you order by 3 p.m. today. And if you go to preparewithdeace.com, you're going to get a massive $100 discount as well. Massive $100 discount. If you go to preparewithdeace.com, my landing page, preparewithdeace.com, do what I did. I talked about My Patriot Supply for a few years on the show, really believed in what they're trying to do, but just never got around to, doing it with my own house. Then I saw what happened in Western Carolina last year, and I called them the next day. I'm like, dude, hook me up with everything, including the 3-month emergency food kit. All right. So as the old ad when we were kids, I think that was a shaver ad. I'm not just a I'm not just a customer now, or I'm the owner. Well, I'm not just a pitch man now. I'm a customer. Okay. So where you want to go, preparewithdeace.com. Again, that's preparewithdeace.com. All right. So Jill, I want to connect some dots about something I've talked about on this show since the last election, that I thought there was a chance for Trump to do something nationally that we've seen a few governors, okay, maybe really two governors do in their states. We've seen what Ron DeSantis has done in Florida. We've seen what Kim Reynolds has done in Iowa. And these are not red states. They're not even traditional red states. Barack Obama won both Iowa and Florida twice. Won them both twice. Bill Clinton won Florida and Iowa twice. Won them twice. Okay? So why are they so red right now? Well, what happened is governors with real conviction got selected in Iowa's case and elected in Florida's case. And then they followed through on their convictions, and then they governed so well for people. What they did benefited people, and so they greatly expanded their coalition and support, and really eroded the Democratic Party. They essentially took all the Democrats in their state that aren't fans of the Harpies on MSNBC and The View. They took them all away, and they left the Democrats with just the viewership of those kinds of programming. And that reduced the Democratic Party in both my home state of Iowa and the state of Florida into glorified letterhead, smoldering ash. They by and large really don't exist. And the only limits that Republicans have in both of those states are self-limitations, limitations they put on themselves. So Kim Reynolds only became governor because the rhino that made her the LG, and when I say Terry Branstad was a rhino, Chris Christie is Ronald Reagan compared to Terry Branstad, guys. All right? What does that tell you?
Animal Planet specials for him, buddy. Come on.
Indeed. Okay. And so Trump, thank God, made him ambassador to China. And so Kim gets elevated. Now, what a lot of us didn't know is during this period of time between Kim getting put on Branstad's ticket and being made governor is Kim's had basically a spiritual awakening conversion. And so no one had any clue she was going to be the governor she turned out to be. I can promise you if the Branstad people knew this, they'd have never made her LG. My kind of Republicans, none of us knew this. Everybody was shocked. And she's been reelected now since then. She finished Branstad's first term. She's been reelected twice. And the second time that she got reelected, it was by 20 points. In Florida, Ron DeSantis almost lost in 2018 to the mayor of Tallahassee, who literally got busted doing cocaine off the backside of a gay hooker. Not a Richard Pryor joke, not a George Carlin line. Life. That was life. Andrew Gillum got busted at homo orgies doing cocaine off the backside of the rectums of gay hookers. And in a state of 21 million people, Jill, by less than 40,000 votes, that guy almost became governor. Almost happened. So Ron DeSantis narrowly wins, but he follows through on what he really believes, governs efficiently. It benefits people. And then the next time he runs, he gets the greatest singular statewide victory in the history of Florida statehood. Palm Beach County. That's the county, folks, where the Florida recount. That's the county where the Florida recount began. One of the most infamous presidential elections in American history. It started in Palm Beach County because a bunch of harpies went to CNN and said, well, I was trying to vote for Al Gore, and it made me vote for Pat Buchanan. Something's wrong here. That started the whole thing. It voted for Ron DeSantis in the 2022 midterms. What happened? Well, Ron DeSantis, similar to what you saw Trump say last night, similar to what Kim Reynolds, similar to what you saw Trump say last night. They basically said, we're going to take this. Now, Ron is more of an ideologue. So Ron said it would take much of the mainstream, not all of it. Some of it's too liberal for me. Kim said, I'll take the entire mainstream. And the Democrats gave it to her. Let her have it. Now, and let him have it. Now, both of them had to govern well. They both had to govern well. They had to show that the decisions they were going to make that were going to cause their opponents to open spleens on television every night, in the end, are what was best for people. They had to hold the course, stay the course, finish the race, and demonstrate this is what's true, good, and beautiful for people. When they did that, they decimated the Democratic parties in their state. The Kim Reynolds, who took over here in 2017, could not have gotten, the woman she is now could not have gotten elected statewide in Iowa in 2017. Now she's a force of nature, untouchable. Ron DeSantis barely won. Now he may start his own dynasty and have his wife take over the governor's mansion for him after, because he's going to get term limited out of office. I think what you saw last night is the beginning of this. Because again, let's go back, Jill, to the top of this discussion. In our ecosystem, we know that the Democrats have been in this zero-sum place. We don't want to share a country with you for a long time now. But Normie America does not know this, and frankly, doesn't want it to be true. And last night, the Democratic Party said, it's true. Like Han Solo, it's true. All of it. They literally raised their hands and said, yeah, we're the people even your soft-headed megachurch pastor warned you about. That's us. It's us. We're the baddies. It's been us all along. There's no Phantom Menace, just menace. No Phantom Menace, just menace. It's been us. And we are going to literally end every last vestige of your way of life if you give us a chance. That's out in the open now. Just like the leadership of Kim Reynolds forced that out in the open in Iowa. Just like the leadership of Ron DeSantis forced that out in the open in Florida. The leadership of Donald Trump now is forcing this out in the open for the entire country. Now, there are places in this country that, because of the political polarization, balkanization, we won't be able to penetrate and do to the Democratic Party nationally just the total wipeout that Reynolds and DeSantis have done in their states. But in terms of the path to 270, if we reran right now, if we reran the 2024 election this coming Tuesday, Donald Trump would win all the same Rust Belt states, but like by several points more. I promise you that's the case. There's another layer of voter there that just last night was like, oh. Okay then. Message received. You made that pretty loud and clear. We're not even going to cheer for a kid with cancer. We got nothing. Ukraine? You care about the Blockbuster video flag more than literally anything going on currently in my life? All right, man. You made that. Your intentions have been made patently clear. We will now respond accordingly. That's what happened in Iowa. The voters did that. 30 counties that voted for Barack Obama twice flipped and voted our way in the last several election cycles. That's what happened in Florida. And I think you're going to see that happen nationally if Trump through the next 3 years can finish the job in terms of governing. If they can be successful governing, then you're going to see the Democratic Party isolated on a national basis, really unlike anything we've seen. And it's going to be a lot harder to rebrand after the Reagan era, where a young Bill Clinton comes along, because this is the Obama party now, Jill. This is who they are. This is a Marxist party, right? It doesn't want to do a rebrand. It wants to win an argument with history. All right? So I think a key step in that national marginalization was taken last night. And now the final step will ultimately be determined by how successfully Trump and Vance govern over the next few years.
The old saying is that courage is contagious, right? And trust me, we need a lot of courage over on the Republican side right now. And when you look at the examples that you gave of Kim Reynolds and Ron DeSantis, I want to pose a question. Are we living in some alternate reality where only we had the information of what they were doing, how they were governing, how popular they were becoming within their own states? Other people could see this too, correct? Right?
Yes.
They could see this. And yet they took no action, right? We're in the state of Texas right now. the last time that Governor Abbott ran, there was a crowded field, a primary field against him, because he's not going through and just trying to be that leader. He'll be like, okay, you know what? Ron DeSantis did something, so let me add that to my list of things to do. And if I can get some razor wire down there on the border, and it probably won't, we'll just have a media fight.
We'll declare an emergency and then do absolutely nothing afterwards.
Because when they go through and they actually show it from people that were down there at Eagle Pass, and they were like, oh, here's the 1.2 mile stretch. By the way, there's an open park. If you just pan your camera a little bit further, there's no razor wire. They could literally just walk down there through the park, right? Like, so I just look at this, and this is the setup that we're given. This is how the game pieces look right now. Like, there's so many opportunities to be taken if there's just a little bit of courage to step out there and do it. Now, the one thing that I do like to see now, as we talk about it on our show, is the changing media landscape and what that will produce with future results, right? Our own Chris Bedford was there in the rotunda last night for the speech. He has a White House press pass. He was in a cabinet meeting earlier last week. That's a huge deal for an outlet like Blaze to go through and be in the White House covering things. And Donald Trump famously is like, AP, you don't want to follow Gulf of America? You're out. We'll see you later. You can't go on Air Force One. You can't come in here. We'll see you soon. We see now, layoffs are happening at certain news organizations. What happens to the CNNs of the world when they're not directly handed the access? When they have to work for it a little bit? Their ratings are down now. You project that out for the next 4 years. And then you bring that back into this conversation where you say the Democrats are flailing. What do they have? Who's going to be that next Barack Obama that's going to step up for them? And if you can just get the Republicans to wrap their little heads around this for just long enough to say, hey, take a step out. I know this isn't in your comfort zone. Why don't you just try it? Let's just see what happens, right? That was your show motto, was let's find out.
Yeah, for a few years ago. Yeah.
Maybe the Republicans can just go through and find some things out, because now is the time. There's never been a better setup on the game board than right now for Republicans to grow a pair and actually do something.
And, our theme this year is lead. And that's what you saw the president do rhetorically last night. Now, moving forward, he's going to have to do this much more hands-on when it comes to Congress. He is going to, the signal sent by the Supreme Court today, believing it has the power to order budget line items. I mean, if we're not at the point of ignoring the courts, which I've been advocating for since I got into this business almost, then the Supreme Court thinking it has the power to determine budget line items, which it's not even. It's in fact the constitutional schema directly contradicts that head on. If that's not a moment to ignore the courts, then maybe there's just never going to be one. Okay. And that also, though, indicates that this stuff's going to have to get codified at the congressional statute level. Trump is going to have to spend an inordinate amount of political capital to push that Congress to places it doesn't want to go. Okay. If his administration is going to ultimately be successful. And that's much on you guys' show, The Mandate, and my show. That's what much of the coverage the next year really is going to be. Much more than the opposition from the other side. They're toothless. I mean, he emasculated them last night. So this is really about, and they were like, we're here to be emasculated. We want to be. We want the American people to know we have nothing to offer them. We're fine. You're accusing us of such, and we cop to it. Okay. So this really is going to be now the amount of capital he's going to have to expend, internally within the party to make this stuff become the force of law. And that's going to be much of what we're going to talk about. And there's going to be ebbs and flows in that and ups and downs with that. But that's going to ultimately determine how successful the Trump administration is. And that's the topic now moving forward. But I wanted to make sure everybody understood what happened last night. What happened last night is the Democratic Party said, we're going to let you have the entirety of the American mainstream. You can have it all. We're just going to be the party of Haight-Ashbury, Madison Avenue, and Ivy League faculty meetings. That's and people that watch The View and MSNBC. That's who we are. We're not moving. Okay, so we have nothing else to offer. You can have the whole mainstream. That was established last night. Now, moving forward, how Trump can come up with not just now he can, it's harder than coming up with an electable coalition, a governing one. All right. And getting this wide coalition of mainstream common sense now to agree to govern together will be a chore. And it's going to test him and Vance in ways that we can't even foresee over the next, particularly the first year here before this first midterm. And that's going to ultimately be determine its success or not. But what was determined last night was the Democratic Party said the mainstream belongs to you. We don't want it. And, we're here to ruin a country. Nothing more, nothing less. Message received.
This is Steve Deace.
All right, we're back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on BlazeTV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Jill Savage. One Jill can carry the weight of a Todd and an Aaron McIntyre combined.
Don't get me in trouble, Steve. I'm helping. I'm helping.
Oh, Todd and Aaron will be back. I'm getting reports from friends and family back home. Oh, there's like nothing in my neighborhood. It's like a half a foot of snow where I live. I mean, this storm was nuts that we had back there, man. This blizzard condition. So I'm stuck here actually for another day. There's no flights going to Des Moines today. So I'll be back here again tomorrow. Where and what? I don't know. We'll find out. But Jill is here today, filling in for Todd and Aaron. They're at least going to be back tomorrow. You can still let us know what you think about what we think via the SteveDeace.com inbox. You can email us, steve@stevedeace.com, DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. Follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. And then also, please don't forget to subscribe to our new YouTube channel, at Deace Show on YouTube, at Deace Show on YouTube. Finally, if you love the podcast, thank you. Make sure you subscribe or hit follow if you're on iTunes. That way, every time we drop one of these new episodes, it'll drop right in your podcast feed every single time. You can also let us know that you love us and let the world know as well. Declare your love. Leave us a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your preference. Thanks to all of you who have already done that as well. Thank you very much. We appreciate each and every one of those. Appreciate our friends over at Raycon. They've been partnering with us now on the show for several years, and they have always among the highest amount of positive feedback from our audience. It's just how much people love Raycon. They're everyday earbuds with active noise cancellation, capable of drowning out the most maddening of sounds. Raycon's everyday earbuds are your quieting sidekick for the gym, work, phone calls, offering premium audio that goes wherever you go. The noise, active noise cancellation on Raycon are better than any earbuds I've ever tried before. So, and their latest model, better than ever. It's got a 32-hour battery life. It's got multi-point connectivity that allows you to pair it with 2 devices at once. And hey, speaking of batteries, Raycon's quick charge function gives you 90 minutes of battery for just 10 minutes of charging time. All right, so you can't beat it. And the everyday earbuds come in a spectrum of vibrant colors. If you're a chick like Jill, if you're a guy, you should not care about such things. And if you do, we will come to you, find you, and hurt you. And then you'll thank us for it after the fact. And so will your women. All right. If you're not liking your Raycons for any reason, and you will, but if you're not liking your Raycons for any reason, they give you a 30-day happiness guarantee return policy, no questions asked. All right. So go to buyraycon.com/Steve. Buyraycon, RAYCONN, as in you're never going to return these if you buy them. You're going to love them. Buyraycon.com/Steve. You get 20% off the best-selling everyday earbuds when you do that. That's buyraycon.com/Steve. And with that, we're going to play one of the weirdest editions of Buy, Sell, or Hold we've ever played, because there's no graphics, there's no Aaron, there's just his post on X soliciting offerings that there are hundreds of responses to. So none of these have been culled, none of them. So I'm going to scroll through these on my phone, Jill, and we're just going to randomly pick stuff that I think might be interesting for us to comment upon.
Steve, we can do hard things. We can do this for the audience. You know, we can make
it's our sacrifice for America.
Exactly.
Yes, for America. Yeah. Indeed. All right. Let's start with Dan Versteeg, because I know this is something I know that you are very informed on. So I'll probably just let you take that lead on this one. The conversation to get rid of the penny. Oh, by the way, since there's no Todd, and there's no holding, you can hold if you need to.
Okay.
You can hold.
Okay.
We've got nothing.
I can hold Lindsey Graham.
Yeah.
He won't care. He won't care.
That's very true.
It was proven 2 or 3 weeks ago.
That's true. There'll be no reaction.
Will not care.
That is very true. No reaction will be had. Correct.
So, yeah.
Yes.
So,
all right. So buy, sell, or hold.
Threats are not even good here.
The conversation to get rid of the penny is confirmation of how our currency has been devalued since leaving the gold standard, so much so that 1/20th of a dollar would be the smallest measurement of a dollar.
Amen. Buy. Yes. And the fact that we're going through and it actually takes more money to produce a penny than it actually is worth at this point in time. Yeah, we've jumped well over just the penny. Who carries cash around, the actual bills in their pockets anymore?
I always feel like it's funny. I rarely have cash.
Change.
When I have cash on me, I feel like I'm like, wow, I've got like $40-$50 on me, man. I'm rolling. Yeah.
Just in case I go buy something, right? Like there are the few cash only establishments now. You absolutely already know those. If they're in your neighborhood, you know what you need to have. And if not, you're just like, you know what? I'm avoiding this altogether, but absolutely buy, because we know inflation, it's not over yet.
No, it's not.
So the penny, they're just preemptively going, you know what? Let's just knock that one out, and then we can get to the other ones later.
Real quick, because I know that you're like you're really informed on this kind of stuff.
For some
what did you
reason.
think when I said to Stu last night right before the speech began, that given the financial predicament we find ourselves in, okay, we cannot significantly lower inflation without significantly reducing government spending. But there's really not much of a constituency right now for significantly reducing government spending, right?
Everybody likes doging, except for when it comes to actually doing the doge.
Correct. So if you can't shrink the pie, then you have to try to figure out how to grow the pie, meaning that then if you're not going to let us dial back, if the voters won't let us dial back how much money we're spending to contribute to the inflation, then we're going to have to try to make the country richer. We're going to have to we're going to have to enhance the portfolio, add mineral deals and new plots of land that provide assets and commodities to the American people, new jobs, new manufacturing sectors, things of that nature. We're going to have to make the people richer so that their cost of living and wages can at least try to keep up better with the inflation. Those are your only two options, right? And it's pretty clear the Trump administration's choosing the option B here. What's your analysis of that?
Yeah, when I look at it, you either have inflation or deflation. And I've said this on your show before. The government doesn't win with deflation. So which option do you think they're going to pick? The option that
governments like to get poorer. We all know this, Jill.
Yeah, the option that benefits us or the option that benefits them? Well, it's going to be the one that benefits them. But our debt to GDP ratio is, the last time I checked, was around 128%. 70-ish, 77% is really where you want that. Like, you can still have debt. It's fine. This is how countries just go about their business, but you can't have it at the levels that we have it right now. And when you look at where we are with $36 trillion in debt, and then we keep, Donald Trump knows, hey, we want to lower these interest rates because he wants to have that wiggle room where he can start maneuvering things the way that he needs them to do, because he has a vision for this. But you have to get Congress and everybody else in line to be able to do this, and your Federal Reserve Chairman and Jerome Powell, they aren't playing ball with him quite yet. So it's until the foreseeable future and things change, inflation is going to be the path that we're going to go down.
Caitlyn Jenner's prostate, great name. Caitlyn Jenner's prostate says buy, sell, or hold. Working on a camper to get ready for summer is better than sitting on X. I don't know, because if you're working on a camper, that means you intend to go camping.
Yeah.
That's going to be a no from me, dog.
That's a no.
That's going to be a no from me, dog.
It's a rough one.
Yeah, I'm just, not a shower, no Wi-Fi. Yeah, I'm just.
Your options.
That seems more like North Korea than fun to me.
Your options without clothes for tomorrow is a much better option than that one.
The amount of emails I probably have right now, we will start a fund. GoFundMe, Patreon, All right, Steve, clothing fund for tomorrow. Please, spare America.
If you do go out shopping in Dallas, the people need you to go live when you're doing this in a mall somewhere.
Coach Okra. Top 20 movies to truly understand the references on the Steve Deace Show.
Ooh.
Okay. I don't know if these are in any order.
These
because
are going to be P1 listeners here.
Yeah. It's a good list I'm looking at, but it's not the order they should be in. Because like White Men Can't Jump is number one. It should be on the list, but it's not number one. So let's just take the movies in general.
Okay.
All right. The Deer Hunter. Yeah, that's referenced. Yeah, the red bandana scene. Mm-hmm. Dave, you bet. We've referenced that a good deal of time. Braveheart, of course. Good Will Hunting, yes. Princess Bride, yes. Mr. Mom, yes. The Untouchables, yes. This is Spinal Tap, yes. Idiocracy should maybe be number one, yes. The Dark Knight could be number one, too. Right, yeah.
Depending on your mood.
Yes. Shrek, yes. The Wrath of Khan, yes. Major League, yes. Napoleon Dynamite, yes. Elf, yes. Hoosiers, yes. Avengers Endgame, yes. The Truman Show, yeah. Although that's kind of recent. Black Mirror, and the series. And White Men Can't Jump. I would get rid of the Truman Show. That kind of came up a little bit recently because you've got to have, the Lord of the Rings movies in here.
Gosh.
Okay, maybe those should actually be number one.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we can...
With all of the men in the Blaze building, the Lord of the Rings is the number one.
Yes.
I'm just telling you.
Yeah, if you're
behind the curtain.
If you're a right-wing man between the ages of 25 and 55...
These are referenced.
Lord of the Rings is it's fundamental to your existence. Yes, it is.
But overall, I would buy that list. That's a good list. That's a solid list.
You think it's a good list?
Yeah.
Okay.
With the obvious Lord of the Rings. But overall...
Let me be opaque. And then what I love is, and the reason I'm going with this is Let Me Be Opaque has that for a name and then has this like very specific buy-seller hold. That's what I like. Let Me Be Opaque writes, the populist wing and conservative wing of the right is near its breaking point. Our ideological differences can't hold a center buy-seller hold.
Well, isn't this the Daniel Horowitz wing and the MAGA wing that we just talked about on Friday?
Like I would sell on this. It's way too early to find this out.
We have no clue if this is possible to do yet.
I mean, this may be right.
It could.
We don't know that, though.
We need them to come together.
Yeah.
We know we need this to happen for this to be a lasting movement and not a flash in the pan like the Tea Party. So we know we need it to happen. It is too early to tell. Here's
the thing, and I love to lay out my ideas for how things could work. I couldn't do a show on how to make it work. I honestly don't know. I have some ideas, but not enough that I feel like, hey, let me lecture the guy that just won the popular vote for the first time in 20 years how he should roll. And you know me, I don't lack for confidence in my intellect. All right, so don't take this as false humility. I'm frankly not capable of it. All right, so this is just I'm not entirely sure. I think it takes a lot of personality massaging. But this is the test of this presidency. It's what I was just talking about. There's always a trade-off, okay? There's always a trade-off. DeSantis is undergoing this trade-off now, right? The way that when he got a hold of Normie, Florida, the way that he governed on it was hard right. Mm-hmm. And so he used his popularity as leverage to get a Florida legislature that thought Marco Rubio was basically a John Bircher, to do things they never wanted to do, right? Mm-hmm. The minute they came out at the beginning of this year, okay, and DeSantis, they couldn't wait to try to declare him a lame duck and say, we're not doing any of this stuff anymore. We're going back to Rick Scott Republican Party crap, all right, and we're just going to be the Mitch McConnell Florida and hand the state back to the Democrat. He had to go to war against his own party all over again, okay, and leverage them again, So this is an ongoing process, and the way that DeSantis did it in Florida will not work in Washington because you just have way too many different vested interests there that the idea you're just going to ideologically leverage people without a proof of concept first, okay? That's just not going to happen, all right? So you're going to have to figure out how to delicately put these coalitions together, get them to work together, get them to govern together. I mean, look at the healthcare sector. We don't even have Jay Bhattacharya and Dr. Weldon and Marty Makary even in there with RFK Jr. yet. We have no idea how a guy who comes out of conventional medicine like Marty Makary and a Johns Hopkins guy, but was very courageous and correct on COVID and the lockdowns, okay? But, for most of his career was in the conventional sector of medicine. We have no idea how him and RFK Jr. are going to work together. We don't have a clue, We don't have a clue how Jay Bhattacharya is going to leave the academic sector now and get into the policy making sector, because him and Scott Atlas are similar, but Atlas wasn't given the amount of power that Bhattacharya is about to wield. I mean, Bhattacharya is going to wield the agency that gives out as many grants as any agency in the entire federal government, not called the Pentagon, does. The National Institutes of Health. I mean, he is literally, he's Commodus with, billions of dollars, just thumbs up, thumb down, hundreds of billions of dollars, and who's getting the money every year? We have no idea what he's going to do when he gets in there. So it's way too early to be asking this question. I do think you're asking the right question that will ultimately, the answer to this will determine whether this was a successful presidency or not. Because we have to figure out, all right, it's been proven that on the right, that we cannot consistently win elections without expanding our base, okay? There's only so many options of expanding our base too, you know? And so we've got to show that we can govern a country. And for us to show that, we have to bring these coalitions together. And that was the coalition that was brought together to win this election. How that turns out will determine whether this was a success or not. But it's way too early, I think, to just say that things at its breaking point. We're not even to the point yet. We just are on our very first budget fight, for goodness sakes. It's way too early for that.
We look and they have the Trump merch that says Daddy's Home. Well, guess what? He's going to have to start being the dad there in D.C. and laying the smackdown, right? Like, don't do that, or I'm going to tell your dad. Needs to be the feeling that they have there for the Republicans in D.C. at this point in time. Like, hey, you better not do that, because you know what? If Donald Trump finds out that you are doing this, he's going to send everybody over, and you're going to be in big trouble, mister. Right? Like, that's the feeling that they need to have, because if they don't have that, if they're not scared of him going through and exposing all the crap that they do every day on Capitol Hill, then this isn't going to be a lasting movement.
Michael James says, buy, sell, or hold, Steve will speak at CPAC wearing a gorilla suit with a hula skirt before Pam Bondi releases the unredacted Epstein files.
I hope for the country that is not true on both cases.
I will buy with the qualifier of unredacted. I mean, if you want anything that's completely unredacted, you're never getting anything like that from government, like ever.
No.
Okay. So if with the qualifier of unredacted, I will put that in there. But I will say, if you would have asked me last Friday afternoon, I was like, they're never doing this. And unless we absolutely keep the pressure on these people. But the way that she has come back and keeps talking about it, I am inclined to think we're going to get something.
The only way out is through right now.
I agree. I think they're going to give us something.
She's made it too big of a deal. There are too many headlines. She's been on too many shows talking about this. She has to produce something. He says, buy, sell, or hold, or Minnesotan Nover says he's buying that federal spending doesn't decrease, selling that Trump will have lasting tariffs out of China and reciprocal tariffs, and holding that Trump will sell FBI headquarters. You agree, disagree with those three? So he's buying, say that one more time?
That federal spending doesn't decrease.
Buy, absolutely.
I mean, that's given. That's a buy, sell, or hold since 1913.
Yes.
But okay, yes. All right, yeah. Okay. Sell that Trump will have lasting tariffs out of China and reciprocal tariffs.
Yes. As long because he needs to win this, right? This is the one thing that is like Donald Trump's brainworm, like he just cares about more than anything, is tariffs on China for whatever reason. It's his thing.
I got to tell you, you're right. I remember his very first event in Iowa.
He cares about this more than any of us know or care about this. This is his issue. I remember his very first campaign event as a presidential candidate in the Republican Party ever, and I was there. And I remember that event so well because, he called me, gave me a specific spot to get the first exclusive interview with him when he got done speaking. And he came over to, nobody at that time knew who I was. It was January of like 2014 or something. And he comes over and bypasses all the national media to talk to this chubby dude from Iowa. And people are like, who the bleep is this guy? Right? That entire speech, and people chuckled and laughed, was him dogging Jeb Bush, saying he couldn't win. People love that part. But that was 30% of the speech. The other 70% was China, trade deals, tariffs, and a bunch of politically savvy Iowans were bored, honestly. Yeah.
And that was that. I mean, this is a near and dear issue to him, and it has been for a long time.
And these haven't gotten much of the headlines, but the BRICS nations, they met back at the end of October.
Remind the audience what the BRICS nations are.
It's Brazil, it's South America, Russia, and India.
Yeah.
So
and they want to create an alternative currency to the dollar.
Exactly. Yeah. So they are over here playing in this pool, going, how do we get rid of the dollar as the global reserve currency?
Yeah.
And Donald Trump has come out and said, hey, by the way, if you try and trade in anything
other
than dollars,
you'll be crapping bricks. Yeah.
It's 100% tariff on you guys. You're not going to be able to get away with this. I care about this. This is my thing. You're going to play by the rules that I tell you can play by. And he's then quietly been telling China and Japan, hey, we're watching you try to devalue your currency. Not huge headline grabbers. Mm-hmm. People see Elon and they're like, oh, these are the things that we care about more. But in terms of what Donald Trump cares about, it's a huge deal.
So last night in our pre-show here on The Blaze, Glenn was pretty adamant. The president has to be honest with people that the economy may get worse before it gets better. We're in a massive paradigm shift. And I think it was Liz Wheeler who said...
He doesn't like that.
You know we're talking about Donald Trump, right?
Yeah.
That's not how you sell things.
Yeah.
But he did say a few times last night, it's going to be an adjustment. Mm-hmm. Bear with me. Mm-hmm. That's about as close to it's going to get worse before it gets better that you're ever going to get out of the consummate salesman, Donald Trump, I thought. What did you think?
Yeah, that's absolutely the political spin on how you say that, where he can still point back to this speech later in time and say, see, I told you it was right there. You just overlooked that. That was your fault, not mine. I said it.
This seems like a pretty easy one. Tani, Johnny, buy, sell, or hold. Trump did a great thing by mocking the left, pumping up his base, and also showing a true love for Americans in his speech. Pretty easy buy. It's a pretty good summary of the speech, actually.
Yes.
Okay. Buy, sell, or hold, give Ukraine, this is ID crisis. Buy, sell, or hold, give Ukraine our spot in NATO. Then sit back and watch the rest of them argue over the check and, and which round will replace the 5.56 times 45. What do you think?
If it wasn't the red line in the sand that Russia says is that Ukraine can't join NATO or we have real problems, I would buy that. But otherwise, as it stands right now with Russia losing everything and just going completely crazy, for the world, I would sell.
Porking America. I just saw the name. I'm sorry. This is what happens when these things aren't.
When Aaron's not around.
When they're not pre-screened, we're just randomly scrolling and just blurt out porking America. We're going to take that to mean government pork, of course.
Yes.
Of course that's what it means. Yes.
There's a lot of pigs in Iowa.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Yeah.
Porking America says Zelensky will appear on SNL.
Yes, absolutely buy. Because he's going to need some goodwill built up in the leftists, right? The thing that Zelensky thought was different, he was still greeted by all the senators upon his arrival. He's like, hey, nothing's changed. This is great. I can just walk into the Oval Office, do whatever I want. And then he quickly found out things have changed.
There's a new sheriff in town, as the kids say. Corey Tacker says, I asked Grok to write me a suggested buy, sell, or hold for the show. It is, like I said to you guys on the panel last night, it is creeping me out how much Grok knows about me. Okay? So the buy, sell, or hold submission that Grok told Corey he should try to get on the show, and it worked. Here it is. Buy, sell, or hold, by 2030, a rogue AI preacher will lead a bigger congregation than any megachurch pastor in America.
Oh, my gosh.
It is literally like Grok reads my mind. Okay? It's creepy. All right? Creepy.
That's a great submission.
But that is a tremendous submission. And I wonder if Grok is like, I'm your Huckleberry. I mean, is Grok giving us a tease? Is this an omen?
Grok is doing the old point at himself.
It's going to be me. It's going to be me.
Blake Shelton.
Yes. Dude, I mean, wow.
I mean, I'm going to buy because this is dystopian in nature, and this is where we're going. I have nothing to refute that would happen, so I guess it's a buy.
Wow. I'm going to buy in that. I think it's just such a great submission that Grok came up with, but it's also as dark and terrible as the dawn at the exact same time. Galadriel, yes. There's a Lord of the Rings. There we are.
There it is.
There it is. Yeah, got it.
I knew you could do it.
Yeah.
I have faith in you.
See, maybe that's your issue. You're trying to find a man in your age group that will not just relentlessly quote Lord of the Rings to you, and you cannot find one with your value system that is not terrible. That is not terrible to look at. Okay,
they have to be out there.
Jill's like, there has to be a guy that's not terrible to look at, has my value system, but is not just going to terrorize me with Lord of the Ring references from the moment I get up in the morning.
Every day.
Yes. And you've lived all over America. America.
Yeah.
You have not yet found such a man.
No.
That's right. Yes. Right now, there's a bunch of guys. I'll lie. I hate Lord of the Rings. Never watch it again. Never watch it again. I promise. Oh. Paul Alexander's like, what is Lord of the Rings? I'm texting that to Steve Deace right now. How do you know what it is? Yes. Buy, sell, or hold from Chad Stanford. It's our responsibility and the church's responsibility to take care of the needy, not the government's responsibility. 100% buy.
Absolutely buy.
Yep.
And if you want the entire book that's written about this, is New Deal or Raw Deal with FDR, and to go through and you can read exactly how the government went over and took everything over, and they said, oh, you know what? You don't need to worry about that anymore. We'll take care of that from here. You just rest. It's fine. Sit in your comfort, Todd.
This came in before the speech last night. Tom Dyerling, buy, sell, or hold. We will see a Roadhouse-style brawl at tonight's State of the Union speech.
It was close. We were close. We kicked Al Green out of there.
That's true. I mean,
that's close.
Railing against a Democrat railing while wearing a cane that is extremely, extremely on brand. Jonathan Evans says, buy, sell, or hold. Someone, and he puts someone in quotation marks. Someone in Steve's church will recommend a pumpkin spiced communion option for Easter. That's very good. I get this. Someone is likely referring to me.
But it can't be Easter.
That's true. I wouldn't do it for Easter.
It can't be Easter.
Easter's a solemn assembly. Yes.
No, I am willing spring here with my outfits this week. Spring is not pumpkin spice season. I know in Steve's life it's always pumpkin spice season, but that's
correct.
Mainly a fall thing.
Now, I will say, I do ease up on it in the summer. All right,
just so like between exciting again.
Some distance. So right around May or June, I'm done till it all starts showing up again in late August. Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
And your stash is running a little low.
That's also the other part of it. Yeah, and I can't replenish it until August. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's also how it works out. Yeah. This is a good one. This is theologically snotty, and I respect it. Brian White says, buy, sell, or hold. Steve says that he checks the statistics every morning to make sure the death rate is still 100%. He actually does not do this, or else he would have to acknowledge that Enoch and Elijah threw the curve. You know what, dude? Much respect. That is a pretty heavy theological pull that you just got me on right there. Yes. I mean, Elijah got the chariot of fire. Yes. Enoch got called up to heaven and technically did not die. Dude. If I was single, I'd date you. That's how much I love this submission. Yes.
That's all you. He's already gotten your approval. He doesn't need anything else besides that answer right there.
Yes.
Brian's feeling good today.
That was an appropriate amount of theological snottiness, mm-hmm. Brian. I have a lot of respect for it. All right. Brandon Dybdol. Yes. Brandon says, buy, sell, or hold. There will be an attempt on Elon's life in the next 12 months. I certainly hope this isn't the case, but his comments recently to Joe Rogan certainly makes it sound like he's concerned about it.
Yeah. We've seen previous stories where he is concerned about this. The stories were through text messages to Ashley St. Clair, but he has been saying this. This is one of the deals that he has been concerned with attempts on his life. And now that he was always in a powerful position before, but now if you're the guy who's going through and turning a lot of the young men in this country and you're saying, hey guys, the Democratic Party it's a terrible construct that you shouldn't really follow. That's dangerous for their worldview, and they don't want that message getting out there far and wide.
We did a whole overtime on this a couple days ago, but have you seen the actual clip where Elon talks about this to Rogan?
Not yet,
have you seen the clip itself?
But I knew that he did say it. Yeah. I saw it in text.
If you get a chance, watch the clip itself and watch his body language. Because it's very clear. It's not, it's like, like I could joke around, hey, you know what, I can't give. Somebody asked me the other day when I don't talk about Built Bar anymore, and I said, "Did I lose?" No, I literally don't travel anywhere in America without Built Bars. I freaking love them. Okay,
it's true.
They just haven't been a client for the last couple of years, and I said the Blaze will hurt me if I give them free plugs. That's kind of a joke.
Yep.
Right? All right.
Right.
So you can say, like, listen, man, if I keep talking about this, you're going to get me killed. Ha, 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 ha. It's
not the vibe.
No, it's not the vibe at all. The vibe is very much, in fact, he does like one of these and one of those. You know what I'm saying? He's like measuring himself. He's self-editing, He's like, and then finally he says, listen, I have to be careful how far I go. I mean, this is not, I think the quote he gave Rogan is, this is not lengthening my lifespan.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. This is not helping him. And that's one of the things that Trump points out, too. He's like, Elon doesn't need this.
Yeah.
He is doing this because he actually cares. He's not doing this for money or publicity. He's already the most famous person now that's out there.
Right.
This isn't helping him. This is hurting him.
Well, you were a big help to us today. So thank you very much for chipping in and pinch hitting for Todd and Aaron. Always good to see you.
You too. All
right. No offense. I really hope I don't see you again tomorrow. I want to go home. All right.
You're going to be here.
I'm going to be here, yes. At least part of the day.
Yes.
We're going to be here for another half hour today. We've got more buy, sell, or hold coming your way. I'll do it solo here next.
The Steve Deace Show.
All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, powered by our friends over at BIRCH Gold. You heard Trump say last night a few times, bear with me. Going to take some time. Bear with me. We were just talking about that with Jill Savage. That's probably the closest Trump gets to it might get worse economically before it gets better, So that's why we want to continue to tell you about our friends over at BIRCH Gold. There's a reason why also gold has stood the test of time as the place to secure your prosperity when there are these sorts of paradigm shifts and things could get difficult. And it's not because of a government debasement scheme, but because we're trying to come out of one. All right, so BIRCH Gold, they specialize in helping you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, and they'll do it for no money out of your pocket. Just listen to all the various 5-star reviews out there that call them knowledgeable, helpful. They don't apply a bunch of pressure. That's why they've got an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews. To get started, text Steve to 989-898. That's text Steve to 989-898. Let the experts at BIRCH Gold help you secure your financial future today with gold. No obligation here. Just information. You can text Steve to 989-898. Again, text Steve to 989-898. All right, I'm going to fly solo here the rest of the way with some buy, sell, or hold. Let's start with uncontexted Deace 2 Electric Boogaloo, who says top 5 ways that you guys could bring Edward back for the nefarious sequel. Right, so a lot of questions about this. How is Edward coming back? We saw him get executed at the end of the first film, right? Well, first of all, we never necessarily say that Edward was coming back. We said nefarious was, but anyway. Part machine, part man? No. Clone? No. Multiverse? No. Force ghost? Heck no. Edward wakes up from a dream that was the first nefarious movie. You mean like the infamous Dallas season finale where Pam woke up, heard a noise in the bathroom, goes in, and Bobby was in the shower. And the whole season that Bobby was dead actually never happened. No, we're not doing that. Decent ideas, but none of those are correct. Now, I'm not going to entertain a bunch of these saying then, well, is it this idea? Because that would spoil it. All right? Don't be a spoiler. Don't be a spoily cat. Okay? So those ideas are not, a couple of them are actually not bad. Part machine, part man, particularly in this AI age. That I could see some of that. The clone thing. Okay? But no, not. You are going to like how we're going to do it, but it's not any of those ideas. I'm going to go back to Tiny Johnny again because he's got a list here I like. Top 10 80 songs that deserve more love. I love this list. Most of it, anyway. Number 10, Men at Work. Who Can It Be Now? Absolutely. I mean, they won a Grammy, Best New Artist, largely because of that song. 9, Billy Ocean, Caribbean Queen. I mean, dude, Billy Ocean had some bangers, man. Like 85, 86, banger after banger. Guy released a bunch of albums and went kind of nowhere. And then in the middle of the 80s, dude became solid gold for 2 or 3 years. Number 8, Terrence Darby, Sign Your Name. He's the guy that also did the Wishing Well song. He's just not my jam. Number 7, I think it's one of the best songs of the decade. Bon Jovi's Wanted Dead or Alive is just a magnum opus. That song is it's a force of nature. I walk these streets a loaded 6-string on my back. I play for keeps because I might not make it back. I've been everywhere, still I'm standing tall. I've seen a million faces, and I've rocked them all. That's a jam right there. Number 6, the Pointer Sisters, Jump for My Love. Could be a no for me, dog, although there were a couple other songs I kind of liked. They were kind of a big thing in the mid-'80s, too. Madonna, La Isla Bonita, no. No, going to be a no on that. But I'm a big yes on the next one. T'Pau, Heart and Soul, is a great song. Classic 80 one-hit wonder. They two hotties named themselves after a Star Trek character, T'Pau. So I think, wasn't T'Pau the woman that... It's either the woman that Spock was supposed to mate with in the original series. Her name was T'Pau when they went back to Vulcan. Or it's the name of the Vulcan priestess who restores his Katra, his soul, in Star Trek 3. I can't remember which one is T'Pau. But that's where I just know that's where they got their name. I can't remember which of the Vulcan women they took their name from, but that's where their name came from. And Heart and Soul is a great song. The Dream Academy, Life in a Northern Town, that's a sneaky good song, man. That song was also like a top 5 hit. Dude, now these next two, your number one and number... First of all, Wanted Dead or Alive, that's Bon Jovi's greatest song. That's got to be higher on your list. But the top 2 songs you have on your list, Tiny Johnny, bangers. Phil Collins, Take Me Home from No Jacket Required, great song. I mean, that whole album's great, by the way. I mean, I'm not saying it's as good as Susudio, and that's arguably the best song that Phil Collins ever did. But Take Me Home is a great tune. It deserves way more love. You're right about that, bro. And then I love your number 1, Duran Duran's Is There Something I Should Know? That's a tremendous song. Now, their biggest song, probably The Reflex. That was their first number 1 hit, I think. But Is There Something I Should Know off their first breakthrough album? I think it's called Duran Duran, right? That's the one that has Girls on Film on it. But Is There Something I Should Know is a tremendous song. That's a pretty good list overall, though. Pretty good list overall. Clinton Shaw wants to know, buy, sell, or hold, giving up the Steve Deace show for Lent. You know, in a way, I think I'd be kind of honored if you gave the show up for Lent. Because aren't you supposed to give up something that's important to you? Something of great value to you? Something that is an everyday part of your life. So, in that case, if we would be the thing that you would feel like we are engaging in a voluntary form of suffering in order to give up something of value to us as an act of worship to show just a small token of our appreciation for what our Lord did for us. And if our show was enough of an indelible impression on you, and we'd be honored to be given up for Lent. How could you not be? Right? That's the way it's supposed to work, right? You don't give up something that's easy. You know, like I gave up green bean casserole for Lent every year. Well, I absolutely detest green bean casserole, so there's not much of a sacrifice there, right? You're supposed to give up something I think of value. So if we're what you're giving up for Lent, man, that is a great honor. Caravan DLM says, buy, sell, or hold, the aliens stole the Epstein files. Yes. Talk about a singularity, a harmonic convergence of stories. That's a great one. Now, this is a good take. S. Born Again says, the Canadian media is so overtaken that public opposition will make it impossible for them to back down on the tariff war. Indoctrination's a real thing. This is my fear. So yesterday I went after Pierre, what's his face, the so-called conservative leader in Canada. I went after him on X yesterday. He came out with some silly statement just blasting Trump on the tariffs, and Trump's betrayed Canada and everything else. And I'm just like, dude, man, that's just That's the same statement that Trudeau could have made, and he already has made. You know, you had a moment. You had a moment that you could have seized here, and you're upside down in all the polling in Canada now. You had a moment that you seized here, or you could have seized here, and you didn't. So if you're going to sound exactly like him, what's the point in, you know, just not voting for him again? Why would I vote for you then? You're the facsimile. He's the real thing. And this is another example of how much of the so-called conservative party in many of these Western democracies are really just controlled opposition. And I had someone, a friend of mine who knows Canadian politics pretty well, came to me right after they saw that post, and they were like, "Hey, he's getting killed right now. This is all nationalism." I mean, even hardcore Canadian conservatives I know are pissed at Trump about the tariffs and everything else. And I mean, he had to do this. It's not. You're right. It's not going to work, Steve. But he had no alternative. They're just getting killed, and Canadians are closing ranks. And this person said, I've even got hardcore right-wing friends of mine in Canada who won't even return my text messages right now. They're so mad at the United States and Trump. And my response to them was, well, that actually makes my point for me all the more. Because the proper moment, essentially what the dude in Canada, and remember, this is the guy that went viral because he ate an apple once. He ate an, you know, we like that. For some odd reason, I don't know what it is. You know, Bill Barr got away with not doing basically nothing after he ended the Russian collusion hoax. Bill Barr did nothing as Attorney General for like the next year and a half, like squat, diddly and squat, did nothing. But he did play the bagpipes, and he sipped a drink of water in cocky fashion during a congressional testimony and went viral for that. We choose the stupidest things to go viral about. And so the fact that he sipped a drink of water, cocky, in front of some sniveling member of Congress, that means we're supposed to excuse the fact he did nothing to protect Christians against persecution, did nothing on election fraud, nothing for the next year and a half. That just excuses it all. So similarly, this guy eats an apple in a real cocky fashion while, you know, some, you know, snowflake reporters out there, you know, seeing, you know, just how much of their T level they can, you know, shed in one interview. And somehow that makes him a sensation. And then when push comes to, so here's what he should have done. What he should have done is turned it around on Trudeau. And he should have said, listen, how bad is Justin Trudeau that he's managed to even turn the United States, how weak is he that he's managed to even turn the United States into an enemy? Trump doesn't respect him. He respects strengths. He respects strength. And you can see Trudeau doesn't have it. That's why he's mocking him. Our president's ridiculous. You can even call him governor if you want. Our president's ridiculous. That's why we need a change. We need bold leadership in Canada, leadership the United States will respect. They can walk in there and get a good deal for the Canadian people. That's what he should have said. Instead, he stands up and he just sounds like he's, you know, doing Chris Hayes' monologue on MSNBC tonight. No one's going to watch. Basically, he did the Canadian version of, remember when John McCain finally took the lead in the polls against Obama for the only time, the entire 2008 election, for the only time, it was in September. He took the lead in the RCP average. And then we had the banking collapse. And he suspended his campaign to then go and help pass the TARP that 75% of Americans hated and didn't want. And was just never to be heard from again. He was just finished as a candidate after that. That's essentially what this Pierre dude did in Canada yesterday. I'm suspending my campaign against Trudeau to join him and never Trumping. Okay. Well, it was nice knowing you, dude. Now, maybe the analysis is that he couldn't have done that even if he wanted to. There's no market for that. If that's the case, then you're making my point even for me better than I could myself. You're essentially saying the Canadian people are not capable of manifesting that level of opposition. Well, then they're done. They're gone. I can't help them. Have a nice life. Build a northern wall then too, I guess. I mean, the dog returns to its own vomit, man. So if that's where your worldview is at, you're paying more for if you're like, I am so pissed we're paying more for butter, I'm going to continue to let Justin Trudeau just rape my country. I'm okay. I mean, I can't help you then. Thanks for letting me know. Kick the dust off my sandals, moving on, and right back to America first then. I can't help you. I can't. Everything that Justin Trudeau has done to the Canadian people the last few years, And oh no, I mean, it's just the parquet is like more expensive. All right, cool, man. Good. I mean, I got nothing for you then. And next time, don't do the trucker revolt because you're all just going to prison and having your banking accounts seized. Just, stay home, comply, ankle grab. That's who you are. Enjoy your neo-slavery. And, Toronto's still beautiful, I guess. I mean, I don't know. What else you got? There's nothing you can help a people. You can't help a people more than they're willing to help themselves. You can't do it. If saying we want the same tariffs back that you put on us is enough for the Canadian people to say, Trudeau for Evs, long live the boy king, then at that point, you know what, man? Dust off sandals, moving on, and we'll just keep winning your Stanley Cups. You guys won't ever get to see one of those maybe ever again. I don't know what else to tell you then. I can't help you more than you can help yourself. I can't do it. No one can help someone else more than they're willing to help themselves. You can't do it. It is what it is. Can't rise above your own worldview then. Enjoy your slavery, I guess. Trudeau for Evs. I mean, it is what it is. Gray Allen writes, or sends in, buy, sell, or hold. Trump is more than 50% as a president better today than he was in 2020. Oh, it's way more in 2020. Way more than 50%. 2020 is one of the worst years in the history of the U.S. presidency. I mean, how could it not be? I mean, it was just a disaster. And it was because, frankly, Trump wasn't showing the leadership that he's showing right now. I mean, he came in this time, grabbed the bull by the horns. Listen, man, if I could have seen into the future, someone asked me last week, if I could have seen into the future that Trump was going to come out of the gate like this, would I have urged DeSantis not to run? Well, the answer is no. Because DeSantis would not have ran. I wouldn't have had to. Wouldn't have even thought about it. I mean, as far as I can tell, and I do this every day for a living, I get paid to do it pretty well. There was no evidence whatsoever that he, at this time, early on in the 24 cycle, in the winter of 23, as the Iowa caucuses are just gearing up, the winter and spring of 23, there was no evidence at all that Trump was going to be able to come out of the gate like this. That he was even capable of it. So, I mean, I don't even think it's 50% better. I think it's an entirely different presidency. I mean, this is a guy looking to wield power, not pass the buck to agencies and saying, hey, I don't want to kill 2 million people. Anthony Fauci, take over the government for me. So I'm going to sell on you, brother, because I think you're underselling how much better it is. I mean, it's like what we said to Jill earlier. What's happened is, Trump has evolved now from a provocateur to a president. And I'm okay with the provocateur as long as it becomes a president, right? We're provoking to what end? We can't just be provoking for, to line the pockets of my engagement farmers. To what end are we provoking? If we're provoking to be presidential, if we're provoking to get and wield and acquire power, I'm all for it. If it's provoking for provoking's sake, well then, that's how I build a following on X, but it's not going to run a country. And what you're seeing right now is provoking with a point. I think to be a president in this era, you're going to have to be a provocateur to some level. If you can't be one in the social media era, you're going to have a hard time getting elected, frankly. But it's got to be provocation with a point. A point to be presidential, to wield that power in positive ways. Thanks, guys, for hanging with us today on a somewhat scaled-back day. Back at it again tomorrow. Until then, Romans 8:28.
This is Steve Deace.